It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders joining us once a week. We said it was going to happen, so he's back. Chris Carter, what's going on?
What's up, boys? We back.
Was that the?
Yeah.
Just give us a little bit of ski mash celebration there.
Action. Yes, sir. I always think that's one of the cooler ones when guys do do that one. I like that.
That's my favorite right now, along with the seatbelt.
The seatbelt's cool. I see, because at first it was the sword being sheathed, but now they're buckling in. I'm like, man, these guys are getting creative out here.
Absolutely. And Alan on his afternoon drive right now. What's going on?
Not too much, man. I was just, cleaning out my Instagram today, as one does, deleting all references to my employer.
Nothing about football there. Nothing about football
there. Just a normal day.
Yeah, I took Steelers Afternoon Drive out of my bio as well as around the 412, but it really meant nothing.
Until the other day, I did not follow you on Instagram. So it's just like the funniest thing. Like, if someone could have written a story as like, drama at Steelers Afternoon Drive, Alan and Smitty not following each other on Instagram. Who's mad at who? I don't know. I just suck at Instagram. That's all.
But I'm glad we got that cleared up now. So if the people do go and check, that is cleared up at this point.
Like I said, I cleaned up my Instagram, as one does. As one does.
I mentioned on yesterday's episode, I wanted to make it a point to start getting more questions and answering those questions from the listeners and viewers of this show. So today, Alan put out on X about doing a little Q&A, and we got a ton of great questions that we're going to dive right into. So let's start here with Spencer. Says, why is Darnell Washington not utilized as much in the passing game as we maybe expected he would be?
I don't know that I expected him. Maybe the thing is the expectations. I don't really know that I expected him to be used in the passing game that much. I will say I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't been used more in the absence of Pat Freiermuth. But I didn't come into this season thinking that Darnell Washington was going to have more than, 20 catches. I don't know. Chris, where are you on that?
I mean, here's my thing. I didn't expect Darnell Washington to get a whole lot of catches this year because I thought Pat Freiermuth was going to be healthy for most of the season. That certainly is coming to play. But I do think, even outside of expectations, man, there's so many plays. I'm like, he's open in like easy spots to reach, like over the middle, underneath. I think he could be a nice little, just like a little dump off valve for Kenny Pickett on certain plays. If he doesn't see something, get it to him. He's like a running back. When he gets the ball, if he gets 2 steps, he's gonna fall forward. Mike Tomlin always talks about falling forward. That's a dude who's gonna fall forward. And when he falls forward, he's 6'7", so he's gonna fall forward a lot more than anybody else. He's a lot bigger. I think there's ways to get him involved that aren't some extravagant thing. It's not some tall task. It's hey, we're asking you to run a simple out router. Just hit the flat here, or just, we're shallow cross over the middle. So Kenny Pickett doesn't have to throw it that far to him. He doesn't have to run that complex of a route. He's just catching and running. And if he's getting 5-8 yards from those, that's a win. And his 2 catches have been 2 first downs. I'm not saying that anyone should have expected him to blow the top off any defense this year, but I am saying the Steelers could use him in a lot more situations, and mainly Kenny Pickett could use him in a lot more situations.
I think the other thing is the one area that I really did expect them to be able to use him this year was in the red zone, and they've barely been there. And so I think that's probably part of that as well, is that if I was Matt Canada sitting this June, building this offense and saying, all right, where am I going to use this giant tight end I got? Like, I would have been putting in a whole bunch of red zone, like a 2-minute drill or goal line kind of plays for Darnell Washington. And then that whole part of the playbook has dust on it right now, halfway through the season. So I think that's probably coming into play here as well.
Yeah, I think it was important too, Alan. You started off basically by saying maybe like the adjusted expectations before Freiermuth's injury and after, because along with you, like preseason, I remember talking about it. I was like, this guy might have I thought he'd have like 16 catches, but 4 would be touchdowns. Like he wouldn't necessarily be utilized a ton, but he would be a go-to target in the red zone. To your point, they haven't been in the red zone, so who knows what that could have looked like. But this kind of goes along with it too, because Tyler said, why have the tight ends been abandoned within the offense? So not just Darnell Washington at this point. Pat Freiermuth wasn't utilized a whole heck of a lot even prior to his injury. Obviously, Connor Heyward has kind of been the de facto tight end one. Rodney Williams on the active roster right now as well. But why have they been abandoned in the offense?
That's a good question. And I they're out there.
Yep. And they're open.
I don't think it's the offense. I think it's been a little bit of Kenny Pickett, a little bit of, obviously I think the focus has been, especially when you're behind, trying to get some chunk plays, that they spend a lot of time playing from behind when you're not necessarily okay with 3 or 4 yards over the middle, the way you are when you're playing from ahead or playing an even score game. But yeah, I don't know. They're out there. I think that one's a little bit mysterious because, we said like, oh, this offense that'll use the middle of the field, blah, blah, blah. I mean, look at where Pat Freiermuth was his first 2 years compared to this year in the same offense. Like it's decreased. Yeah. And I'm not really sure I have a good answer for that.
Yeah, I got to say, the tight ends were going to be, I thought could be a big source this year of easy yards, of simple plays over the middle, and it's just gone away. And heck, we even saw it in the preseason. I mean, that back shoulder seam pass down the middle, when Kenny Pickett hit that to Pat Freiermuth, it made it look so in rhythm and in seam. I was like, if he can do that a few times this year, it's going to open up the offense, because then people are going to have to pay attention to the tight end, and that's going to prevent them from being able to double George Pickens as much, from being able to double Deontay Johnson as much, and it's going to balance out the offense. The tight end position is there, and again, it's not like even without Pat Freiermuth, these guys aren't there. On the third down play where Kenny Pickett tried to throw it to Allen Robinson in the end zone, and it was low because he was well guarded, and he had to kind of make sure it wasn't intercepted. He had Connor Heyward wide open on that play. He broke inside and broke out, had the middle, and in the middle part of the field, like right where you want to be able to see it. And Kenny Pickett just didn't see Connor Heyward in that situation. I don't have an answer for why he's not seeing his tight ends, other than maybe he's still trying to process so many other things all at the same time, and it's just part of something that he's still working on. But to me, it would be an easy solution to get easy yards for the Steelers more often on the field.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the tight ends right now, Connor Heyward, 14 receptions for 105 yards. Pat Freiermuth, prior to his injury, 8 receptions for 53 yards. So, yeah, 22 total catches there. Rodney Williams doesn't have any. But they're on the field. They're in position to make plays. So it's one of those things. I appreciate the question. Just don't have an answer to it, really, because, like, there's plays there to be made for those guys.
Yeah.
So, JB has a two-parter here. The first one is specifically just for Chris.
Don't you do it.
You want me to only ask the second?
No, you could ask the first one, but I know JB, and he knows he's wrong with this question.
Yeah, ask Chris Captain America or Cyclops. So we'll let him answer that one, and then we'll get into part 2.
Okay,
this is only a 30-minute podcast. Just
First of all, he knows whenever he talks about Captain America, he's talking about the non-Steve Rogers Captain Americas out there in the world. If I'm taking one, I'm taking Cyclops, because he's done a lot crazier things with his eye beam. So there you go. Johnny, I hope you're happy. Don't ever ask me that question again.
He just needed it on. He's probably asked you that for Locked On though too. Like he's probably got you on camera saying that before.
Oh, he hasn't asked me that specific question. He's asked me to justify my fandom of Captain America as a character.
Okay, gotcha. Well, okay, his second part of this, and not at all going along with it. If Jones plays well the rest of the year, what do you do with the tackle situation going forward? Move him back to left, or draft a right tackle, or keep him at right, and maybe continue to have Dan Moore, or look to upgrade somewhere else there?
I'm putting him at left, or you know what? I might even draft a guy or sign a guy and bring him, because I don't think Chooks is here next year. Even if this doghouse situation hadn't happened, Chooks is going to cost this team $11 million next year. He ain't playing at that level. They're gonna find a way to get rid of that money, whether it's cutting, trading, whatever they got to do, and then they're going to find another guy at right tackle, or maybe that is Broderick Jones. But they drafted Broderick Jones to be a left tackle. I think he has the traits to get there right now. I think that, and Mike Tomlin, when asked about, if, how much better Dan Moore is better at left tackle than right, and he said significantly better. And I think that was an interesting indication that maybe they've been trying to get Dan Moore over at right, and it just hasn't worked. I think they want to put Broderick at left, and they want someone at the right tackle position who can not give up pressures, but also be as aggressive and athletic in the run game. I do see them reinvesting in the tackle position in this offseason, as well as the center position.
Yeah, I think I'll answer the question by saying it depends, right? I think there's going to be 3 guys that are – I don't think Jukes will be back. I do think that Dan Moore will be on the team next year.
Yes.
And I do not think they will be willing to stand pat with Dan Moore as their starting left tackle. That's the whole reason they drafted Broderick Jones in the first place, is they did not want to stand pat with Dan Moore as their left tackle. Now, if it turns out that those 2 guys are going to play the way they are right now, Moore on left and Broderick Jones on the right, that's fine. And I think that's okay for Broderick Jones to be a right tackle, but it's still not okay for the left tackle spot. So I think that it depends is what can they get? They will now be in a position where if they can add another tackle, either in free agency or in the draft, they will sort of have the luxury of a guy that looks more like a left tackle or a guy that looks more like a right tackle. And it doesn't really matter because it seems that Broderick Jones can play either. And I don't think there's a problem with him being the right tackle, like Smitty and I talked about yesterday, as long as there's quality on the left as well. I think it only hurts you playing him on the right side if you have a guy that you're not happy with on the left. And so I think they're going to have to add another tackle. I think it will be quality. I'm talking about, not a scrap heap free agent signing or not a low draft pick. I think it will be another quality tackle addition. And wherever that guy looks better, they will probably play Broderick Jones in the other place.
Yeah, and Chris, I wanted to see what you thought about this because yesterday we kind of were talking about the same thing, and I mentioned, the name Tristan Wirfs, the guy that was drafted kind of around the same spots that Broderick Jones was, and played the first 2 years of his career on the right side too, and then made the switch over to left tackle. So like this audition basically that they have right now for what could potentially be their tackle duo. Like what if Dan Moore does ball out the rest of the year and he's really good over at left tackle, and that's the duo that they decide to go into next season with as their left and right tackle. But obviously Dan Moore maybe not a long-term solution, and then eventually Broderick Jones slides over there. Like, do you think that it's like, would you hit the panic button right away if Broderick Jones isn't even the left tackle next year?
Not at all. I think that's very reasonable. Look, as Mike Tomlin says, I like guys who do multiples. As talking about versatility. I think that the Steelers are going to welcome Broderick Jones at right tackle as a temporary thing. If Dan Moore Jr. is their top left tackle and he's performing well there, and they think that's the way how to balance this line. But I also don't think they're going to lose sight of they want Broderick Jones and his athleticism and his measurables on the left side to protect Kenny Pickett's blind side and open that up. I think the Steelers aren't against finding better matchups for themselves and trying to make those plays happen. I think that they're very much for being open to being flexible. But I think also this season is also testing Broderick Jones. Just how flexible can you be? How well can you move around? We talked to Kevin Dotson for years about switching from left to right guard and right to left guard and all the things there. And the challenges that were Broderick Jones is making left to right tackle look not that hard of a transition for him right now. And sure, there's things he can clean up, there's things he can get better at, but he's been pretty solid. And I think that when a guy shows you that he can do that, it's a really good sign for your future.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can kind of parlay that into this next one. My guy, Schoolhouse Rocks with 2 X's. First 2 rounds of the draft. I love that we're talking about the draft in November here. First 2 rounds of the draft, if it was right now, what 2 positions you keying in on?
Ooh, center. And I always try to keep up with player availability and who comes open. I'm always I'm a guy that, like, if I see a guy that I really like and he's fallen into a place where you can't just say no to him, I still take him even if he's not directly a need. But if I was to pick 2, I'd say center and corner.
That's fair.
I think first 2 rounds, I would say tackle and corner again. Is that crazy? Like, I don't think it's crazy.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it's
we
crazy.
could probably have
center. They probably need a center more. I just feel like center is more of like a late second to third round position, even if you're talking about one of the top guys. I could see a center in the second round. But, man, like, I think I'd rather have a tackle. I think I'd go tackle corner again. I really do.
If the tackle's right there, like if that one tackle from Notre Dame is in play, oh, absolutely. I don't think he'll fall nearly far enough for the Steelers to get him.
Alt is his name, yeah. And Olufashanu from Penn State up there as well at the top of this tackle class. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair class at those positions too. Like, I don't think that's crazy that you think you could get. It's not as deep in corner as it was last year, but we'll see how things progress throughout the season. Maybe they got something in Darius Rush that they feel confident enough in, combined with the veteran guys they have. Levi Wallace is a free agent, but it looks like Patrick Peterson is going to be back. Maybe they feel like they have enough in Rush to have something there. They wouldn't feel like they need to use a first-round pick on a corner. But I don't know. I don't hate. Like I'm big on positional value. I think you got to take. I think you got to take the big heavy hitters early. And that's quarterback, defensive tackle, edge rusher, offensive tackle, corner, wide receiver. Like those are the ones you got to take in the first round. And I think of that list, those two spots are probably the places where the Steelers have the biggest needs.
Well, I was just say, like, it's probably a shorter list to say what's not on the table for them, right? Like that wouldn't make any sense to take early in this draft.
Well, I mean, outside of those positions that I just named that I would not take in the first round pretty much ever, unless like they're picking 30th or something. I think quarterback doesn't make a lot of sense. I think defensive tackle probably doesn't make a lot of sense. I want to check in with Cam Heyward about where he's at in terms of how long he wants to be doing this, but that seems like a luxury pick at this point and not so much a need. Edge rusher, obviously, leave that position alone for a while. Like, quite
running back. But I mean, like, we haven't touched on safety at all. Or off linebacker.
Safety's not really a first-round pick position for me either. Neither is linebacker, off-ball linebacker. I think those guys should come later.
You got to be elite at those positions to get that pick.
And I feel pretty good about their guys there. Like I don't see an urgent need at those positions to want to go reaching for one the way they have in previous years.
I don't know. Say the Steelers are picking at like 20 and there's an off-ball linebacker at Michigan that you can trade up to 10 to get. You don't want to do that again?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to do that.
All right, next we got.
I'll take Michigan center to go all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. Nugent is his name. He's quite good. I think he might be an underclassman, so I'm not sure he's going to come out, but he's a good prospect.
We got another two-parter here. Actually, and the first one is also just for Chris. Ask Chris how many celebrities he gets compared to on a daily basis. Yeah.
Whose podcast is it? It's mine. I came and I took it over.
You're about to get locked out if these questions keep going.
All right. How many celebrities? At least 2 a day. Man, you look like Jerome. I got this. Man, you look just like Jerome Bettis. You look just like Cam Heyward, Aaron Donald. I tell this story to people a lot of times. What I noticed was I always got compared to light-skinned guys with beards, as does Cam Heyward. If you're light-skinned with a beard and you have a low cut, you just look like everyone else that has that same exact haircut. And for years when I was in college and just out of college, I was a lot skinnier than I am now. And a lot of people would say, man, you look Drake, Drizzy. I literally had a man in Vegas one time spin me around like while gripping my shoulders, thinking that he was talking to Drake. And this was Drake in his prime too. So he was like, Drake, it's you. And I was like, it's not. And he's like, oh man, I'm so sorry. You look just like him though. And I was like, I don't. But anyways, so for years I got Drake. I like when I moved back to Pittsburgh, I would get my hair cut and the kids would be like, you look just like Drake. I'm like, yeah. So one time I put on some pounds at this point. I'm covering the WPIAL championships at Heinz Field. And I'm a sideline reporter. I'm running around for Channel 11. And I hear these high school kids that are in the first row being like, yo, he looks like that one rapper. And I'm turning like, they're about to say I look like Drake. And they said, nah, he looks like DJ Khaled. I was like, who said that? Who said that? Which one of you little snots? I'm coming to get you. Like, I was so mad. But I was like, damn, they right, though. I look a lot more like DJ Khaled these days.
You know who does look like Drake? I saw the other day a picture of a young James Franklin. And
you're
James
not wrong.
Franklin definitely does look like Drake. And also, James Franklin with hair is kind of disturbing. I bring this up because Joe Smeltzer, our Penn State reporter at Nittany Sports Now, was doing Q&A, and he had a question that somebody asked him to ask James Franklin why he's bald, which I'm like, that's not a thing. But I was just making fun of Joe, like, well, you got to ask him now. Like, come on, you can't let that slide. But I did want to see when James Franklin became bald, and it was sometime while he was at Vanderbilt. But anyway, I found a young James Franklin picture from his time as a college quarterback at East Stroudsburg, I think. And yeah, definitely has a bit of a Drake vibe to him. So there you go.
Drizzy. All right. Okay, well, this same person, this is Joel, by the way. This kind of goes along with the last thing we answered, but this includes free agency. What is the Steelers' biggest draft free agent need if it were right now?
I think we kind of covered that. I don't know. Basically, all the things that we said.
I mean, look, this team needs outside cornerback. It needs cornerback help, period, right now. If they want to become an elite team, they need better corner play. They need better center play. They need another star power player on the offensive line. Another pillar player on that group to carry it with Broderick Jones. I have full confidence that Broderick Jones is on track to becoming that guy.
Let me spin this question then and say,
Sure.
Is there a position that they need right now that you wouldn't feel comfortable, even if it was a highly drafted rookie, putting them in? Like you would rather invest that in free agency? Just to make it a little different.
Oh, like what would be where would I want to look specifically in free agency?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Because like maybe in the draft, like you hope that if you're taking a guy in the first or second round, they're going to be able to play early. But like, where can the Steelers not afford to miss? And get a vet.
Yeah, that's like the maybe the best credit I can give to Omar Khan is that I'm not sure there is one of those spots.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, the whole team is back. Levi and Chooks if they cut him, and that's kind of it. Like I don't know. I would say the one area where I feel like they are kind of prime for that kind of upgrade is wide receiver. Like Allen Robinson has like a $10 million salary next year. I assume that's going away. Now he would probably come back for less than that, but like that's a position where I feel like you could go a different direction and bring in a veteran guy, and maybe would help the team a little bit. But they could certainly go young there too. I don't think it would need to be a vet.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure there is one.
Yeah, I mean, technically, like Mason Cole is a vet, but like if they could find a veteran who could come in and do like kind of like Jeff Hardings did back in the mid 2000s, that's a very rare thing to find in the free agency market. But if you could find that, great.
Sure.
I think maybe cornerback, because you have a young guy in Joey Porter Jr. You have two younger guys that I expect to be kept around and to be given shots at getting playing time in Corey Trice and Darius Rush. Maybe you could use a guy that's in his prime. Unlike like Patrick Peterson, if he's still around, great, fine. You can move him around and let him be a chess piece. But I think they could use an athletic corner who is a veteran who can help set the tone with Joey Porter Jr. And then if the younger guys come up, and Corey Trice and Darius Rush are really good, great. That's a good problem to have. But maybe having a veteran who can use his experience to help win more matchups, maybe that could be the answer that the Steelers really need to boost that group.
Let me ask you this, Chris. For the last 5 or 6 years, the Steelers have restocked their cornerback position almost exclusively through free agency, because for the previous 5 or 6 years, they mostly tried and failed to draft them. Does this class, with Joey Porter Jr. looking like, at the very least, a good starter, if not more than that, and being able to identify and get a hold of Corey Trice late in the draft and Darius Rush after the draft, does that change your feeling at all about the Steelers drafting a cornerback highly and their ability to correctly identify a good corner and develop one properly.
I mean, I said this for years. I think the Steelers were just in, their main miss was Artie Burns. They were hoping for William Jackson III. Didn't work out. They went and got Artie. He didn't turn out well for them. Senquez Golson, I feel like, is kind of a rough one on anyone because he never played. You didn't know that guy was going to be too injured to play.
In that group too, probably.
Justin Lane, third round miss there as far as a corner. So like you could put him there. Curtis Brown, if you want to take it way back, got guys like that. Okay, but I think when the Steelers, they know what real cornerback talent looks like. It's just that for years, I think they were focusing on other positions and stacking them up against each other. Oftentimes, if they had an either-or situation between one prospect and another prospect and a cornerback, they were taking the other prospects for a while. And I think that what they're doing now is they're making sure that they get those top corners when they can. And, Joey Porter Jr. led the way. Corey Trice is more of like hey, can't believe that guy's still around. Let's just see what he got when you bring him to camp. I do think that they're doing a better job there, but I also think that was also a temporary thing because of just where they were, and they took a couple shots and they missed in the 2010s there. But before that was the same front office, Kevin Colbert, and it ran it then when they got Ike Taylor and they made sure to keep around Deshae Townsend and guys like that. So I think it's one of those things that was kind of just highlighted because the Steelers had bad cornerbacks for a while and they were trying to fix other things with the draft. But I think now what you're seeing is if they had spent more picks on that position, they eventually would have been hitting a lot sooner.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I just feel like they weren't throwing that many darts at the position anyways to have like a large body of work to say fail. Like they had a bunch of bust guys, which you could say, I mean, if you want to be like cynical about it, maybe they self-evaluating, they knew that they really weren't that good at scouting the position and would rather look at free agency. Or two, that's just they were building through the pass rush and understanding that, baseline corner play they could get away with. And that's just how they were building their defense. I don't know.
Well, they also, halfway through that process, they got pretty lucky when Joe Hayden fell into their lap.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it wasn't urgent that they spent more resources on a corner because the Browns just gift wrapped one for them.
Right. I do this. So let's get back to the O-line play because this person, Eric, when will we see the O-line gel?
I think you got to have more than one game where you're starting the same five for that to happen. Haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
I thought you started to see some of it. I think they've been pass blocking. Look, pass blocking is always going to be, by its nature, inconsistent. Like you're not going to consistently get beat by any one thing, either schematically or personnel wise. Like it's always just going to be here, there, and everywhere. I felt like where you really think about consistency from an offensive line play is run blocking. I thought we started to see that last week. I think the opportunity is there for them to show that they have gelled in some run blocking this week, but they've got to do it. But I think that opportunity is there, and I think Broderick Jones is a part of that.
Yeah, I think that it just takes time for this group to come together. I think that Broderick Jones needs to be on the field for it. They need some athleticism. He clearly brings a boost to this group. I think that these are the weeks that coming up here that you got a stretch for the Steelers for a chance for them to start to build some momentum in just finding success. And one thing I asked Najee Harris was if he feels like they're building on things that are becoming routine. I also asked Kenny Pickett that, and both of them agreed that they're finding more things that they know if they call in most situations against most teams, they're going to find answers. But of the next 4 weeks, this next month here going into December, you got the Packers, a defense that's not all that great, and that a chance to build up there. The Bengals have been tough this year, and I think their defense has remained stout, so that they're going to be a challenge. But after that, you get the Cardinals and the Patriots before you go on the road to the Colts. But 3 out of your next 4 games, those are defenses I think the Steelers can try to take advantage of and try to move around, gel, come together, coalesce, whatever words you want to use. I think that this is their chance to show it so that they can finish when they get into that final month of the season, at the Colts, against the Bengals, at the Seahawks, at the Ravens, that if their offensive line is gelled by then, I think that they put themselves in a really, really good position to finish strong on this season.
Yeah, like short term, and that's the thing. It's like, are you looking at short term or long term here? Because short term, like if it's going to happen, it's going to be this group of 5 right now that I think that you see going forward. But if you're talking about like a season to season thing, the problem with that is like the turnover that you could see. And I'm not suggesting that you keep the same 5 together, because I think there still is a void of talent that could be upgraded upon when you look at center and one of those tackle spots. But there is something to the same group of 5 being able to continue to play together and gain continuity. So that's where the conversation is this about gelling for the rest of 2023, or you mean like long-term finding a solution for the offensive line?
I mean, maybe they're just getting Dr. Scholl's insoles and they're going to be gelling.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you gelling? I'm gelling.
If I had Yoshi on this podcast, he would be bonking you right now.
I need to upload that video to be able to use it on here.
Yeah, just have it ready to go. So
I'm not sure I'm okay with that. I'm not sure.
But in all seriousness, I do think that part of it's just this year. They just need to gel this year and figure some things out moving forward. But I think they have pieces on the line right now that can be pieces for the future. I think James Daniels can be one of those pieces. I think Broderick Jones is one of those pieces. I don't know how much longer Isaac Seumalo plans to be in the NFL. If he can be here be with the Steelers another 3 years or another 2 years, that's fine. I think that's good there. But you got Daniels, you got Jones. If Dan Moore Jr. can round out, great. That'd be nice to have. But I do think that as far as right now, they can come together within this next month and then finish strong on the season. And that'll be good. But as far as long term, they've still got some investments to make. I think that they need. I don't think there's been a good Steelers team there's never been a Steelers team that's made a Super Bowl and had a bad center. Well, no, I take that back. 2008 did. But outside of that 1 year, the Steelers have had.
The Steelers haven't had a bad center since like 1959.
That's my point. It's all
Ray Mansfield, and then it was Mike Webster, and then it was Dirk Dawson, and then it was Jeff Harding, and then there was 3 years of Justin Hartwig, and then it was Pouncey.
It's Herwig is your one break there, but that's my point, is that I think that's been a crux of what's made the Steelers who they've been in the past several decades. And you just knew when you had Dermontti Dawson on the field, you weren't coming up his lane, and if he pulled and he was hitting you and he was running out in space, good luck to anybody that he put his hands on, because he was going to crush you. Marquise Pouncey was, a perennial Pro Bowler, was always in that conversation, was one of the best centers in football for a decade. And then, like you said, Mike Webster, one of the greatest football players of all time there. So right there is tough. And Jeff Harding was a huge fill-in for the 2000 Steelers when he came in. I think the Steelers need to have not just a decent center who sometimes has good weeks, sometimes has bad ones, but a knockout center who is just very, very good.
By the way, at that position, Old Ranger, Iron Mike, and Dirt might be the best one-team nickname combination at one position anywhere.
I agree.
That's the Old Ranger, Iron Mike, and Dirt. That you're not going to find me one team with one position group with 3 guys. 2 of the 3 are in the Hall of Fame. Ray Mansfield just won the Steelers Hall of Honor this year. That's as good as it gets right there.
Yeah,
it's kind of disappointing that Pouncey never had a good nickname, honestly.
Yeah,
that's borderline Hall of Famer too.
Yeah. All right, we do have a couple more. We'll try to get these quick.
We need more and better. We have entered an era of bad nicknames. We need more good. I agree. Nicknames. We need more. We need more good nicknames.
When we get Van Pran or Zach Frazier in here, we need them having a nickname right off the bat in order for them to succeed here. Let's get through some of these pretty quick. The one question: will we see Ant Mac against the Packers? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's healthy. They'll play him.
Okay. Has Minka been working on the side at all? Tomlin didn't seem too confident when mentioning him. In my opinion, we should wait until those AFC North games back to back with the Browns and Bengals.
We aren't allowed to say if we saw Minka on the side, right? So
I saw him in sweats at the beginning of practice. I can say that.
Yeah. During the availability period, during the pictures period that is allowed to be recorded. That is all we can say.
The injury report out yet? Probably is out. I don't know.
It probably is. Yeah, I think Steelers guy was probably just trying to get you guys in trouble. That's probably what the question was about.
Stop it, Steelers guy. We like our job.
And then
official do not practice.
Okay. All right, and then the last one here, linebacker depth after Cole Holcomb injury beyond top 3. Yet Quan Alexander, Landon Roberts, Mark Robinson. Is that enough? How often can practice squad guys, especially linebackers, be called up for games? Are we viewing Keanu Neal kind of as a 4th linebacker at this point?
No. 3 times. Not yet, but when Minka comes back.
Nice.
I don't think that's enough. I'm actually really surprised that they did not sign someone at linebacker. I thought we would have seen transaction come across the wire the last 2 days. Signing a running back, probably because they have 4, and signing a linebacker off somebody else's practice squad. That's kind of been their MO. There's a couple good ones out there. I don't think that's enough depth. Maybe you can get through it because you have guys like Keanu Neal and Miles Killebrew, who are safeties that have played linebacker, and the ability to play 3 edge rushers. You can play Nick Herbig off the ball. Like, they have some flexibility with the rest of their guys, but no, I don't think 3 is enough. And the practice squad guys, Michael Flowers and Tariq Carpenter, they can come up for 3 games each before they have to stick on the 53.
Chris, any additional thoughts on those? As far, I guess more so the Neal part of that. Like, could you see him filling some linebacker role?
On the Neal part, I think Neal is going to keep doing what he's doing. I don't think it's going to be any like crazy switch in position. I think they might ask him to line up in a couple more spots here and there, but it's not like he's going to be, an actual linebacker. He's going to be a safety who's helping the linebackers at certain spots here. But I think maybe they make a signing eventually if they can try to bring in another, older pair of legs that knows the NFL and can play there. That might be the move, but I think that their top 2 guys are pretty good right now that they still have left. And I think that they could still, maybe try to figure something out there as far as, how Mark Robinson wants to come up. But again, linebacker would be a concern, but I'm with Alan. I'm not sure I'm taking that in the first round unless it's like some superstar. If I know I'm getting like a Ryan Shazier type of player, sure. But that's why we haven't seen too many other Ryan Shaziers.
The other thing I'll say about linebacker is I really like the dime package they rolled out with Darius Rush as the 4th corner. And so if you're worried about overloading those linebackers, just only play one of them and play more dime than nickel. I think I'm okay with that.
Yep, and we're going to see Quan wearing the green dot going forward as well, just to add that in there about the outside linebacker or the inside linebacker group. All right, well, let's get out of here. Chris, tell the people where they can find you and get all your work.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. You can read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. You can find me on the Locked On Steelers podcast Monday through Friday, breaking things down on your Pittsburgh Steelers, again, on your favorite podcasting app on YouTube, just like you find this show.
Bam. Alan?
I'm at @Saunders_PGH on Twitter. My Instagram is mostly just pictures of my dog anyway, and clearly I'm not any good at it. Find my work at SteelersNow.com, at PGH Steelers Now on all social media platforms, and someone else does that Instagram, so it's actually good. Check that out.
Yeah, they get creative with the captions and the headlines and stuff that they put on there, so I figured it was somebody else. But I am Zachary Smith, PGH, on everything. For myself, for Christopher Carter, for Alan Saunders, thanks for jumping in and taking another ride with us on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.